Well, good evening. I just thought I'd do some reminiscing again. VMFA 115, Silver Eagles. Well, when I first joined them, it was overseas my first time. I joined 115 as a PFC. It was the only rank I ever received outside of VMFA 115. Every rank I ever got, I was attached to that squadron, all the way up to E7. When I retired as a gunny, I was in VMFA 115. I did 18 years in the Marine Corps, 13 of which I was assigned VMFA 115. Whether or not it was overseas or here in the States, namely Beaufort, South Carolina. We had a reunion, I believe it was in 1996. It was the 50th anniversary of that squadron, and it was held in Beaufort, South Carolina. I recall going to it. Of course, I was clean shaven then, but I had my mustache. There must have been close to 1,000 Marines at that reunion. The night that we gathered, I can't even remember where we gathered at. It was a big hall. But 13 ex-skippers, that's commanding officers, were all in one line, just talking. And I walked up. Lieutenant Colonel Ivy was my first commanding officer over in Vietnam, and he remembers me. And we got talking. All of a sudden, right down the line, every one of them remembered me. Every one of them, all 13 skippers, including the one. And I got counseled one time because names change. You got a idiot that waddles, you call him Penguin. If you got a religious fanatic, you call him Bible. Chrome Dome, if you got some young guy with gray hair, call him Chrome Dome. Silver Top. Just nicknames that you call people. And we had quite a few nicknames for quite a few people, including the squadron. VMFA one-way nickel. One-way nickel. All they want you to do is work. They don't give a shit about your off time. You don't have off time. You're there to work. Work, work, work. And your main job is deployment, deployment, deployment. One skipper said that he remembers opening up a mail. I sent him a letter. I was in Puerto Rico. I wanted to go on leave. So I made out a leave request and mailed it to him at the squadron. He realized at that time that I was in the squadron. Every deployment that squadron went on, for 6 months, I went on. At that time, I worked in quality assurance. And every deployment that squadron went, from Yuma to Miramar to Top Gun, the Air Force Base, I can't remember, Tyndall Air Force Base, went to Cuba. Gene went. We had an airplane that went down in Dallas, Texas. Gene went. The thing is once you know your job, you get overly qualified. And MAG 31 in Beaufort, South Carolina, had this thing where if you can send one man that can do 3 different jobs in 3 different work centers, he will go on every deployment. Well, I could work flight line, I could work maintenance control, and I can work QA, and I can also dib around electric shop a little bit. And hydraulics was, yeah, that was the messy shop. That was dealing with hydraulic fluid. You got dirty. Worse than power plants. Working with the engines. The J79, which was a dirty job. If somebody had to do it, hydraulics was even worse. But that skipper remembered opening up a letter for me that had a leave request in it. And then this one skipper counseled me because of my disrespect to the squadron. VMFA 115. Glass iron tail. Iron tail. Yeah. The chicken with the iron tail. One time I got a rooster. This is over in Thailand. I got a rooster, tied a thing to his leg, set up a little platform outside a flight line, took some spray paint, sprayed the chicken silver. We had a live silver eagle outside the flight line. It generated a lot of humor. Squadron had a dog, and I felt sorry for the dog, actually, because of the drugs over there. People were shooting up, mainlining, if you were. Well, that dog got mainlined 5 or 6 times a week. It was always in a state of being high. Looking back, I never did it, but I saw people give the dog a shot. But those were those days. But getting back to that reunion, all of them remembered me. Remember I told you about that little trouble I got in down there in Florida, where I had to remind this major that I drive a 12-speed bicycle and my vehicle is in Buford. Well, the captain that actually was at fault for that was also assigned to VMFA 115. And I seen the jerk, and he was walking up towards where all the skippers were, and that captain came walking up, and I looked at the skippers and I went, "Oh, who's got the seat now?" And this guy at the end popped up and goes, "Well, I do, Gene." And I went, "Oh, well, I feel sorry for you, because you got a Looney Tooney in your squadron. That nut there tried to turn my 12-speed bicycle into a vehicle down in Jacksonville, Florida. I think he's half duck." And when I said that, all 12 those officers started laughing. And they said, "Duck?" We haven't heard that expression in years. So, anyway, that skipper that owned up to it, him and I talked a little bit later, and I told him the story, what happened down in Jacksonville. And he actually assured me that the captain was a good guy, fantastic pilot, knew how to fly the Hornet airplane. Yeah, the F4 started out F4Bs. And then I went into the J model. All that did was redo the radar. Basic airplane stayed the same. But I did 15 years dealing with the F4. And then last 5 years of my military career, it was with the Hornet, the F-18. Went to school in 85 out to Florida, or out to California at Lemoore to go through the F-18 school. And it was interesting. The F-18 is a good airplane. It's a lot different than what the F4 is, but the F4 still holds all the records for takeoff and acceleration and all that because of the J79s. The F404s are good. It's a good engine. Only takes a few hours to pull off one and put on one. 115 at one time changed 6 engines in 5 days, and that was a record, because to change an engine on an F4 you're talking 2 or 3 days. You know, just to take out an engine and put in an engine, you're talking a good 3 days. You're talking hours and hours and hours of safety wiring. Everything's got to be safety wired. But the F404, piece of cake. You know, it's like a zipper. Unzip it, take it out, zip it back up, or put it in, then zip it back up. So, anyway, we had a guest speaker that night. Now, nobody said who the man was at all. Nobody said nothing. Well, we sat down, had hors d'oeuvres to eat, and then the guest speaker arrived. It was Major Howe. Well, at that time it was General Howe. He was in the big boy seat. Well, he got up there with the real known skippers, and they introduced him, and I sat in the front row. And when he took the stand, didn't say a word, just stood there, started looking around, and I popped up with Sawadi Puying. Oh, I'm sorry, Sawadi Puchai. And General Howe looked at me and went, Gene Taylor. I'm glad you got that right, because I'm not a female, I'm a male. How you been, Gene? Fantastic. Fantastic. Nice to see you. Well, gentlemen, for those of you that don't know me, I'm General Howe. I served in VMFA 115, got promoted to Major, but I only spent 1 year. But I understand that that man I just talked to spent 13 years out of 20 in the greatest squadron that the Marine Corps ever had. The place roared. I tell you what, I may not have had a lot to say concerning different squadrons I was in, but I'll say that I was in the greatest squadron that the Marine Corps ever produced, VMFA 115. Every once in a while I'll get on the computer, look into it, jog it up, leave a few comments here and there, and I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw this tidbit out. I'm looking at 15 minutes and 5 seconds, going up to, I'll cut this thing short in just a second. So, anyway, I'm proud of what I did in the Marine Corps. But let me say this, I'm not proud as a human being for what I did for those 22 and a half years. You can't have the world in the palm of your hand. You can't be involved in the world. You just got to put up with being of the world. That's pretty much the basic of being a Christian now. You know, you can have the world, but you also got to be a human being. And I wish I was a human being during those 22 and a half years that I treated God like I do my droppings in the morning when I go to the toilet. I wish things were different back in those years. I know God watches over me. Had a debate one time when I was a Lance Corporal. There was an airplane going to the Philippines, and I was told to launch it. They put bombs on it. Center line full of gas, external wings full of gas. I was not the plane captain that signed it off. But Steve Devers told me I had to launch it. Well, the air crew was already snapped into it. The engines were already turned in. All the plane captain had to do was put it through its checks and get it out of there. Well, I went up to the airplane. I didn't look at the paperwork. I didn't look at the book. I didn't, I was told to launch the airplane. I went up to launch the airplane. Well, I discovered during my checks underneath the airplane that the center line was full. But yet it had 6 1,000-pound bombs on it, which meant it was 4,000 pounds overweight. It would not have been able to take off. It would have crashed at the end of the runway. So I came out, told the pilot to shut her down. A QA officer came out and asked me what was going on. I told him about the centerline tank. Well, he told me the centerline tank was empty. I told him it was full. We debated about it. I went back underneath to do some other hydraulic checks. When I came back out, the QA officer was up talking to the reel, assuring the pilot that the centerline tank was empty. Pissed me off. Well, I grabbed my screwdriver, went underneath, and popped the centerline tank, which meant 600 gallons of fuel was sprayed directly into my face, which meant the airplane had to shut down because I opened up the fuel tank. But little did I realize that my lungs were filled with gas and my stomach was filled with gas. Apparently that gas hit my face, about 300 gallons of it. The guys pulled me out from underneath the airplane and said that when they held me upside down to get the fluid out of my stomach and my lungs, about 2 gallons of this black mucus trash came out of my system. They put me in the Jeep, took me straight to the hospital. Well, the hospital that Nampong had, which was a wooden barracks, hooch type thing. Well, they took x-rays. They did a lung test, and I smelled like JP. Naturally, I just popped a centerline tank while the airplane was running. That means it was pressurized. 30,000 psi, matter of fact. And yeah, well, the results were no eternal damage. At that time, I didn't think nothing of it at all. But after I retired and I got back into church, that bothered me. God looked at me when I was Antichrist as a Lance Corporal. That fuel should have killed me. JP4 is poison. It's a, you get it on your skin, get too much on your skin, it discolors your skin, it eats your skin. It should have ate my lungs up. It should have ate my stomach up. Why didn't it? Grace of God. You know, they say miracles don't happen. Well, that to me was a miracle. But it took over 20 years for me to realize that even during my Antichrist stage, God was looking out for me. And I got an idea that Chuck was involved in it. He had to be. He had to be. No question whatsoever. He had to be. He had to tell Jesus, hey, I don't want to see my grandson damaged. And he told Jesus that. Now I'll find out the truth when I die. If Chuck had anything to do with it. But I think he did. I think he did. So, anyway, that's just my own 2 cents. You know? But as far as my Marine Corps career, I'm proud of it. Loved every minute of it. I can go on with more stories than, you know, that old cliche, Carter's got liver pills. But reality is reality. What happened then was history. Will you forget? Do you forget? No, you don't forget. Do you forget those that harm you? No, you don't forget. Do you forgive those that harm you? Yeah, but you'll never forget. Hard to deal with. But is it? Is it hard to deal with? No. All you gotta do is keep your eyes focused in the Bible. Keep your prayers going up to Jesus. And don't worry about a thing. Live for the moment that you are living. When I did those other videos, they're all history. Happened yesterday. Think I care about them? No, I do not. Okay? It's over. History. Yesterday. Today is today. Well, it's nighttime. It's 7:30. But even what happened an hour ago is history. You know? Do I want my family to come together like my hands? I sure do. And we can do it without the drama. Drama can kill. And it causes trouble. I am drama free. I will not have drama in my life. I will not have stories in my life. I will not have lies in my life. I am me. And I believe in God. Cut and dry. So, Well, that's all I wanted to say for tonight. So, have a fantastic night and enjoy it. And I'm looking at 25 minutes and 15 seconds, and I'm shutting this thing off.